This is a quick video I'm making for a buddy called Alex. He's asked me a question about the Boss Katana and how to improve your tone on it. Now, in this video I'm probably going to be using, I will be using the Boss Katana Studio, the Tone Studio, because there is way more functionality on that than you get with just the plain standard amplifier, and if you're not using it, I strongly suggest you do, because it is an absolutely fantastic piece of software. Now, I've recorded this video about 8 times now, and they've all been about half an hour long, so I'm going to try and make this one quick as possible. So I've written out some notes on things to improve your tone. With that said, there are other videos on YouTube that have helped me over the years, and everything I'm going to say is nothing new. So if you want a little bit more elaboration, I suggest you go and look at some of the other guys with the specific thing that you're after, because yeah, they're probably going to be a bit more precise than I am, but these are the big things that I've taken away from it. So technique, make sure you're fretting notes properly, make sure your picking hand is, this is all going to be in like kind of a rock metal context as well. Make sure you're fretting notes properly. You don't want to be pressing too hard down on one string and not the others, otherwise you're going to throw it out of tune essentially. So that's nice and in tune. If you press too hard on the index finger, so technique's a big one, obviously. If you're playing heavy metal, you kind of want to pick a little bit harder to kind of get that authority out of it. If you're picking kind of light, it's not really gonna give you the same sort of effect as the bands you're trying to emulate, I suppose. So, strings are a big part. Make sure your instrument's set up properly. Make sure you're using the correct gauge. By correct gauge, it's kind of a subjective thing. So with string gauge, I use 11s with a 56 on the toppy, surely because you want to keep the string tension kind of taut, but as I say, it's personal preference. Guitar picks, I'd say something with a little bit of flex to it, but not too much. I use 0.88mm Tortex Dunlop guitar picks, the green ones. They've always done me well. I've got a couple of way thicker ones, but I've never seemed to, like that'll all affect your tone as well, how thick the pick is, how flexible it is. Like just try a whole load of picks, go out and buy shitloads. Like different colours, shapes, sizes. Not that the colour's going to make much difference, but... So at the time of recording this video, the Tone Studio for Katana, we're on, I think it's 3.02. the version. I'm using 3.0 because I haven't updated my software yet, but with that update you get, I think it was around 12 different Boss pedals and a different EQ, which I much prefer over the one that was on there as standard. I will hopefully try and show you why that's better. It's a bit more easier to look at in my opinion, but we'll go over all those things. Where your amp is placed in your room is going to make a huge difference. I always like to sit a little bit offset, so I have the amp on the floor and the sound is kind of shooting underneath my chair. If you're kind of dead onto it, like the speaker is right in your face, you're going to get a really bright sound. Kind of like if you've ever recorded anything, if the microphone is dead in the center of the speaker, you're going to get the tinniest sound out, so you kind of pull it off center to the side a little bit. So say like the cone is here, you kind of want to aim, instead of hitting the middle, you kind of want to aim for about there, because then you're going to get like the best of both worlds. There's a little bit of mid-range and low end, and there's a little bit of high end, but it's not super piercing from the very center of the speaker. So where you're sat is going to make a massive difference. So onto the Tone Studio software. Now I've got a patch that I've downloaded. It's actually quite simple. I've looked at it a few times now, and it is literally just amp type set to brown, the gain is on 85. I'll probably take a screenshot and put this somewhere in the video, so that should come up on screen now. As you can see, bass is on 30, middle is on 85, treble is on 44, presence is on 65, and I've got no effects except for a little bit of reverb. So, with that said, one of the questions Alex asked me was, how does gain volume and master volume interact? So, the master volume is just literally how loud your amp is in real life. So, it's not going to have massive, if any, effect on tone. Of course, when you start turning things up, they will naturally compress, but that's a different subject for maybe another video. I'm not really a professional on this sort of stuff, so I may just not make that. You can go watch someone else. But in terms of like rock and metal music, mids are very important. You need to keep them in. Don't go scooping them all the way out. Whereas it may sound nice to you at home playing to yourself, you can get away with it sometimes. I mean, Daddario did. Even so, you didn't really hear him live from what I've heard. But if you want to be heard, Facebook, if you want to be heard, definitely push some mids. Mine's kind of girthy sounding, but that's literally because my mid is on like 85. It's ridiculous. I might pull that back a little bit actually, but for the purpose of this video I'm going to keep it there. So the volume knob, master volume, just how loud your amp is. The channel volume is the channel that you're on. So you have, with the Tone Studio, you have 8 presets. Now if you're playing a clean channel, say you're playing a metal song and there's a clean part halfway through and you need to switch it live, the whole point of the channel volume, I'm going to have to mute this, the whole point of the channel volume is to keep 2 presets at an equal level, or at least try to keep them at an equal level. So if you've got a clean tone that is kind of quiet, and then you switch out, you're going to blow everyone's faces off as soon as you switch the channel out, and yeah, it's just not going to be nice to listen to. The mixer engineer, if you're playing live, is going to hate you and all that sort of stuff. So you want to try and keep it all equal. That's pretty much what the channel volume does anyway, and that's the one on the far left. I don't know which way this video is going to be flipped, but on the far left of the software, on the buttons at the top, your channel volume denotes that channel's volume. Your master volume stays the same across all of it, because that's the level you want to play at, right? Your channel volume is per tone effect, not effect. That's the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Hopefully you do. How does the gain interact with those two? So the volume and master volume are kind of their own separate thing. I may be wrong. Somebody should correct me in the comments if they do so wish. Gain is just clipping, so it's taking the volume and it's pushing that signal further. Now in a tube amp it will be natural, so the power section of the tube circuit, I believe this is right, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the power tubes of that circuit will increase in voltage, which will make the electrons bounce around the tube harder, and it will sort of result, because it's analog, it's like natural, so it gives you like a nice warm sort of tone, whereas this is all digital. Everything with the Boss Katana at least is digital. So they've obviously got some algorithms in there to try and emulate that. Probably some, I forget what they call it, harmonic distortion, I think that's the correct term. I had this conversation with a friend last night, so I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Harmonic distortion is essentially they're adding in like perfect fifths and maybe some ninths, but distorting them slightly. I'm not going to go any further on that because he's way better at it than I am. So gain is literally just your volume level being clipped, and it's the same as when you turn down your volume knob on your actual guitar. It cleans up a little bit depending on what type of guitar you have. The one I've got there does it way better than this one does, but these pickups are quite hot, so they're always going to be slightly distorted if you've got a crunch channel. And then as soon as you start turning up, you've got more frequencies and more voltage being pushed through the amplifier, at which point it's going to increase the gain. So I hope that's what you've asked me to explain, because the way they interact, for me personally, I don't notice much difference other than the volume being adjusted, but then the gain is a whole different ball game. Of course, you can watch other videos to get your more definitive answer, or Wikipedia if you're into that sort of stuff. So after all of that, if I show you the preset that I've got, and I'll also show you the EQ. Now, with that said, the EQ, you can't access it on the amplifier alone. You do have your channel EQ, which is your bass, middle and treble on the actual unit, but I never ever use those anymore. It's always through the software, because once I've edited the bass, middle and treble on the amplifier that I've got, on the channel that I've set up, I'll try and get a tone out of that I like, and then the EQ, which you can't access from the amplifier, which is in the software, I will try and fix it slightly. So I'll be pulling out frequencies that I don't like, and I'll be pushing frequencies that I do want more of. So it's entirely subjective. You can fiddle with this stuff for hours. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different combinations of things that you can do with the software, this amplifier. I mean, I'm still exploring it, and I've had it for about 4 months. It's honestly the best bit of kit I've ever bought. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, so I downloaded a patch for the Boss Tone Studio in search of a tone that was close to Rabir Massad's. Now, obviously I'm never going to get as close or on par with him because I'm not him. Secondly, I don't have his gear. So this is as close as one I could find. I've edited it quite heavily, so I'm going to go through each of these options here and I'll show you exactly what is happening. There isn't a massive amount to this. It is it's really quite straightforward. So we'll start up here. The amplifier I've got is the brown one, gain 85, volume to taste. Like, this is just for this channel, as I said before. That's perfect for me for my bedroom playing. You may feel different. Bass 30, middle 85, treble 44, no effects, a little bit of reverb, and presence 65. So if I show you what I've got here, the effects. So this will be the panel where all your effects are. You can kind of you can merge effects as well. So you can do like delay and reverb, or just delay. I've just got reverb on. So for the effects pane, which is the first button up here, we're just using that, just reverb. The chain is chain signal 3. So that means your guitar is going in, straight into your booster, which I'm not using, straight through your delay or effects, which I'm also not using, amplifier equalizer, which I think is this section. It's not the external equalizer, and then reverb, and then speaker. Of course, you can fiddle around with all 3 of these and it's going to change your sound massively. If you have your own pedal board, you will probably know that if you go in the front or in the effects loop, that the sound is infinitely different. Even the pedals that you're using, in which order that they are in, is going to affect your sound massively. So that's another video for another day. Booster is off, not using that at all. Modulation is off, don't use that at all. No delay, no effects, no delay 2, tiny bit of reverb. I'm using Room. These are my settings. Go and copy them if you like. The reason why it's there is to kind of not dry up the sound. It's there to kind of meld it together. It's not like a dry signal. It's not like you're in a completely dead room, like you're kind of emulating a room, which is, yeah, why I've used a room reverb. So EQ, and this is the important one. You can copy all of these settings and it'll affect those knobs on the left. Now, what these are doing is they're cutting out the frequencies. Low gain, I've cut out the low gain slightly because that will clean up the mud and this will give you a tighter sound. Now that is something everyone is trying to achieve when you're EQing a guitar, especially for metal, and this is what this tone is for. The low mid gain, I've boosted that slightly, so that's going to be, what frequency range is that? Low mid gain is around, I have absolutely no idea. I don't like this parametric EQ all that much, but I'll show you the other one and why it's better. It's a bit more user friendly. So if I just leave it at that for the time being, if you copy those, you can have a go. There are 2 little buttons over here. Now you can actually add a high pass and a low cut. High cut, low cut, low cut, high cut. One of them, both of them, all of them. I don't think I've used it, very slightly. So I've not low cut it, I've low cut it to 20 Hertz, and that's to help clear up the low end a little bit more, so you're actually shelving that frequency down. So everything above, focus camera, everything above 20 Hertz is coming through, everything below that line, which is not a lot, is being cut off. It's not like an instant cut off, I think. I'm pretty sure it's actually, there may be like a roll off and then it cuts out. But it does help slightly, and you can choose where that wants to be, so amp in or amp out. I've got mine set to amp in. Okay, and now the other EQ, which is a lot easier to use, as I hope you'll agree, is the GE10, and this is very reminiscent of the floor EQ that you can get from Boss in pedal form, if not exactly the same, and you can edit your EQ that way. So if I try and copy this that I've got, I am pretty sure that what I have looks something like this. This is going to be very rough. This is not perfect in the slightest. It's probably like that. You don't want to muck about with it too heavily, because loads and loads of boost will make you, it'll just wreck your sound. I mean, you can boost as much as you like, just play around with it, see what comes out. But for what I need it for, I think that's pretty much where I'm at. And then same again, you can actually change the position, whether that's amp in or amp out, with the two buttons up here. Okay, I should probably add the noise suppressor, this NS option, which is next to your EQ. Massively helpful. This will stop your amp from making noises when you are playing, when you're not playing your guitar. So when you stop playing, you'll get like a slight amp hum. This will pretty much get rid of that. I've probably got mine up too high, because really there isn't a huge amount of noise coming out my amp. You probably won't be able to hear it on the microphone I'm using. So that, for me, that's not giving me any sounds. And if you put this higher, you're actually going to decrease your gain, because this is not letting as much, I'm probably going to get this wrong, this is not letting as much sound through. It's a noise gate essentially. It will cut the noise out, but it will also cut some of your tone or your signal out, so you won't be getting the true sound that you want. This is great for playing live and all that sort of stuff. This is great for cleaning up your metal playing, but really if your technique's fine, you shouldn't need to use this too heavily, if at all. Okay, so in terms of tone, I'm going to try and demonstrate why. I'm just going to try and demonstrate it. I'll just show you what the patch sounds like. Now, what I'm using for this is I'm using Reaper recording software, and I'm using an SM57, which is in the position I said it was at the beginning of the video, so it's kind of on the edge of the cone. And I'm also using a Audio-Technica AT2020 condenser microphone, which is probably about a foot away from the speaker itself, and you know what, I'll just show you. And everything you will hear will be coming from those two microphones. Now I'll make a little blend of them and try and find a tone that I like. I may just A/B compare the SM57 and the AT2020. I'm not really sure how much the help this is going to be, but I'll let you know what's happening. And now we're using the camera's microphone again. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you actually got something out of it, because it was a really unplanned video. Like I have notes because I've recorded this about 8 times. So I've tried to shorten it down an awful lot. So if you've got any more questions, or you feel I didn't explain anything well, please let me know. And yeah, obviously I don't do this for a living. I'm just one guy.